Hello YouTubers, Joe Kersey here at 1540 on March 27th, Friday. And I got some things ready to mail here tomorrow. I got my taxes ready to go. I got paid some bills, and now I got some international stuff I'm sending out to the 4 people that I interact with overseas. Well, I actually interact with a lot more than that, but these are the folks that actually we email back and forth. And
again, the Soyuz using a refined kerosene.
Getting ready to watch this Soyuz launch here.
Fuel, all of the stages.
Well, I guess it's a couple minutes to go here for this launch.
Audio sequence initiated.
The second umbilical now separating from the tower, marking less than 15 seconds. The engine's igniting.
There you go.
Ramping up.
Engines and maximum thrust.
And liftoff. The year in space starts now. Kelly, Kornienko, and Padalka on their way towards the International Space Station.
You gotta love the Russians. They're so basic. It's kerosene and oxygen.
Getting good first stage performance. The Soyuz delivering about 930,000 pounds of thrust through its 4 strap-on boosters and single engine.
I'm reminded of
nominal operation. The first stage measuring 68 feet in length and 24 feet in diameter, burning liquid fuel for the first 2 minutes and 6 seconds into the flight.
The Russians,
40 seconds into
well, the Americans spent $1 million developing this pen that would write in space, write in zero gravity.
Continuing to get
and the Russians just
cabin inside, as you
use
heard.
pencils.
NASA astronaut Reed Wise, fairly smooth flight into orbit for these crew members.
Good for them.
60 seconds. Speech, yaw, and roll are all nominal. Copy.
I think that's neat that you can see the guys in the actual
on 70 seconds into the flight. The velocity will be just around 1,100 miles per hour. Continuing to get good data from the Soyuz craft.
80 seconds. All parameters of the control system are nominal.
The crew looking good inside. Again, Padalka in the center, Kornienko in the top of your screen.
Second, all parameters of the structure are nominal. Copy, everything is fine on board. We are feeling good.
You gotta love this kind of stuff. I do anyway. Always have.
The shroud has been jettisoned. Copy. The first stage has separated.
So at this point, the escape tower end has been jettisoned, and the 4 strap-on boosters of the first stage have also been jettisoned, completing their drop. They've dropped away at an altitude of about 28 statute miles. Soyuz right now traveling at about 3,350 miles an hour.
I bet if those things drop down on land on some guy's yurt, there's going to be...
Continuing to hear good things from the mission controllers over in the Russian Mission Control Center in Koryov. Crew continuing to feed reports.
They will drop down one of those labor camps over there in Siberia.
So far.
But that would be a day brightener for them. I like the little stick he uses to punch the buttons.
Into launch, since launch, Soyuz craft now passing a speed of over 4,700 miles an hour.
There's that Kelly dude there. He's the brother of the husband of that congresswoman that got shot in the head.
Giving a big thumbs up.
200 seconds into the flight.
I personally find his affect really strange. I find him slightly
So the core stage, which makes up both the first and the second,
I just find him just a bit strange.
Continuing to perform as expected. That core stage, 56 feet in length, 13.5 feet in diameter.
And that means with his shaved head.
That's just, with 4 fuel chambers. Is able to
you
provide
watch him talk and listen to him.
178,000 and 222,000 pounds of thrust, depending on the altitude and the outside pressure.
I know he's one of our guys,
3 minutes
but
and 28
you
seconds.
got to have a certain amount of
It'll burn until the 4
sense
minute
about
43
some of this stuff, I
second
think.
mark. And then the Soyuz will use what's known as a hot stage technique, where the third stage will ignite while the second is still burning. This being the reason for the Soyuz to have that small open area in between the second and third stages.
200
a hot hole.
seconds into this flight, the parameters of this structure are known.
So you got a hot hole and you got strap-ons. Boy, this
Everything is fine on board. We're good.
this could be more than just a space flight video,
Everything's
huh?
still looking flawless for this launch, getting close now to third stage ignite and second stage shutdown.
Well, there we are. Well, now we're having a thrashing back and forth about the Holy Week services, and indeed, I got to do my my newly learned reply all. So I guess I did learn something from the problem the other day. So let me see how this all plays out. Meanwhile, Paul's home, and it looks like he's got himself an earring here.
Just trying to fit in with the YouTubers.
Yeah, it's you're very au courant there. Actually, it's a. What you found this at work? I get a close up at this here. Tell them about it.
It was lying on a table. I picked it up. There's nothing wrong with it. No one complained that they had lost an earring or anything.
So what'd you do? Use a shiv to pierce your ear?
Yeah, pierce my ear.
That's one of these. It's not a clip-on. It's an actual thing that you put in a piercing.
It's an actual.
Yeah, hold that real still there. Focus on it. Let's get over because there's contrast there. There you go. Yeah, it's. I guess it's one
an
that you can
actual
actually.
earring.
Yeah.
Thing flips over, and it locks. It pops and locks down in.
Oh, okay.
There.
Oh, all right. Yeah.
Somehow it got pulled off the woman's ear or whatever.
Well, I don't know. Maybe it pulled your ear off. Did you find any ear fragments in the rooms today?
Hell, this was on a table in the hallway.
Well, I mean, maybe the rest of the ear fell off somewhere. I mean, it shredded, and they didn't want to.
Well, somehow she lost it by the elevator, and somebody picked it up and put it on the table in front of the elevator.
Oh, maybe the traveling tinker, had his dog eat it. Now that last little remark, immediately made me come flooding back to a great tale that a great story I heard in medical school, and actually probably has a 90% chance of being true. And I won't say medieval times, but in 18th century times and 19th century times, obviously, people got hernias then, like they get hernias now, and sometimes they became very large. I mean, sometimes they'd hang down to their people's knees and things like that. And so, when I said traveling tinker, and sometimes the tinkers did this too. A tinker's a fellow that goes around and fixes pots and pans. But they had what was called a wandering herniotomist. a traveling a wandering herniotomist. And in fact, one of the licensure oaths in Indiana to this day, they ask you to swear that you are not an itinerant physician. An itinerant physician. So you had these itinerant wandering herniotomists that would go around, and what they would do is they wouldn't actually do a real hernia repair, because this was pre-anesthetic for the most part. Well, it was up until the 1840s and 50s.
Oh, they didn't have morphine then either.
Oh, they had morphine. They've had morphine for the last 4,000 years. But what would happen is, you could always tell the guy was more than just a traveling tinker, who was going to repair your pots and pans, because he would always travel with a dog. And the key to surgery, pre-anesthetic times, was to be really, really fast and slick. And in this case, slick was sleight of hand as well. And so, rather than fixing the hernia, what the guy would do is he would incise over the hernia sac, reach down in, pull out the testicle, just cut the son of a bitch off, and he would then feed it to his. So as I was saying, the guy just, cut this testicle and just feed it to the dog, and then he'd, there were various ways they could do this. Essentially, I should explain, there are two types of hernias. There's one that's called direct, which comes out just off to either side of the midline, down by the inguinal, by the pubic bone, and it goes straight out. All right, and it's it's not generally obvious anymore. It's not generally. It's rarely generally obvious. But the ones that these guys were fixing are the ones that were called indirect, which, when you think about it, it's a bit of a misnomer, because these things would actually come down through the inguinal canal, in the potential, peritoneal sac that can develop there anyway, and sometimes those would end up actually down in the scrotum, and so what these guys would do is they just incise over this. They'd yank out everything they found in there, presumably not bowel, although, they'd try to shove the bowel back up into the abdominal cavity, and they just ligate the sac. They just tie it off. If they even bothered to do that, because sometimes what they do is they just, put a big rag on it or something and put pressure on it and say, wait about 4 months, this thing will heal. And it would. It might come back. But by that time, he's off to another town, and his dog's had a few more testicles to eat. Wandering herniotomist. So basically, these guys, if they did anything, they were ligating the sac, and I hope they didn't close the wounds. I hope they just left it open, because if they left it open, there'd be a lot less chance of sepsis and infection. I hadn't thought about this in years. In terms of sterility, well, it's interesting. Unlike, this wasn't battlefield surgery in the sense of, you're going out and dealing with guys that have been shot and had horse shit pulled into their wound, and in the olden days, it's bad enough to get dirt in your wound, but back in the cavalry days, and hell, even in the First World War days, you had, well, for that matter, World War II, you had a lot of horses, and you'd get horse shit getting to the wound and things, and not to mention just the clostridia that's in soil, and but for some reason, they clearly must have washed the area off a bit before they did a lot of this, because you don't hear about a lot of people dying from these. If these guys were wreaking death on every kitchen table, in the home in which they repaired pots, they wouldn't have been doing it very long. But so the wandering herniotomist and his dog. I think that should be like a Norman Rockwell painting. Or who's that guy that did all the great Arthur Rackham? He did all the great illustrations for Robin Hood. You have an Arthur Rackham illustration of a wandering herniotomist. Kind of like Johnny Appleseed. I've had a snoot full of him over the years. Him and Helen Keller. But you really ought to see murals, wall murals in state capitals about the wandering herniotomist, I think.
I don't have them.
What?
The murals you just mentioned.
In the state capitals, yeah. Not of the wandering herniotomist, but like Johnny Appleseed and other, Helen Keller. And, think of your favorite Helen Keller joke. I can't think of one right offhand because I've put them out of my mind because they're very politically incorrect. But
what do you mean you can't see the lights are on?
Well, no, that's not. I mean, there were others that were actually more. Well, I'm not gonna go into this here now on YouTube. Okay, I think we've covered everything that's happened since the SD card filled up and shut the camera down. First time that's happened, but I'm glad to know how it shows up on the back screen of this thing. Any other little words of wisdom here, Paul?
No. I hope it warms up.
Well, yeah.
A little.
Well, it will.
More for the weekend.
Well, the weekend. Now you're not off the weekend, are you?
I may be off Sunday and Monday.
Oh, okay. Well, there you are. Okay.
Then I'll work through the rest of the week, and then I may even have Saturday off.
Huh.
So one of these 3 days I can possibly take as a hidden holiday thing. Such as I'm allowed to have a paid birthday off.
Well, it's not your birthday.
I know, but I can have it anytime. So if I have a lot of extra days off in a week, I can put my birthday on one of those days and get paid for it. And so I'm there.
Well, thank God I don't have to understand that. All right.
It's like a paid sick leave day, or a paid vacation day, or a paid holiday.
Okay. Well, alrighty. All right. So bye-bye, YouTubers.